Hello everybody, it is Monday again, which means it is time for another episode of Mythology Monday. You'll notice I wore my Cerberus shirt for this one. So, my shirt is a hint on what we're going to be talking about today. The next 3 weeks we are going to be delving into Greek mythology, which is actually one of the biggest mythologies that have influenced my book series, The Head, the Heart, and the Heir, and a lot of it has snuck its way into the characters, into the world, into the lore and existence, to the point that if you've watched previous videos about the kingdoms, you'll know that each of the kingdoms also have a Greek city from mythology based in part of their creation and lineage and that. So Greek mythology itself has made its way into the actual existence of Taurian and not just into the sorcerer world where the rest of the mythologies tend to have existed. So you'll know that in the sorcerer world, we have Salem witches, we have the line of Merlin, we have the Celtics, and a lot of those lines, Poseidon, Hades, Ares, like you can tell where these are coming from, but the world of Taurian and the people itself are also being influenced by Greek mythology. So we're going to talk about it in 3 parts, the same way that we did Hesed in 2 parts. The first part will be talking about the gods, the second part will be the heroes, and the third part will be the monsters and the other. So, Greek mythology, starting with the gods. Now, as you know, in ancient Greek mythology, there were the main gods who lived on Olympus, who were the all-powerful ones, and then there were a lot of minor gods or half-deities or, people who had part god blood but weren't fully gods and that. This is a way that, if you look at Taurian and you look at the world as a whole, there is a lot of kind of hierarchy built in like that, the way that it is in Greek mythology. The sorcerers essentially would be your Greek gods, where they are all-powerful, they live in their own little area, like in Greek mythology, they live up on a mountain, but in Taurian, they live on an island, kind of out in the sea, away from everybody else. They don't interact with the peoples anymore. There's a lot of mentions in the book of a war like 1500 years ago where they just said, screw it, and they no longer communicate with one another. And because of that, the sorcerers stay on their world and the humans stay in theirs. But part of the fact that the gods, part of the fact that the sorcerer lines were founded by several Greek gods like Ares and Hades and Poseidon and the line of Cassandra, because they came from the Greeks, a lot of that culture and a lot of that mythology has worked its way into the human world as well. So there are mentions of a couple of different stories like the Iliad and that kind of thing in the world of Taurian, and that's because during the war between the sorcerers and the humans, the mythologies that came with the sorcerers and the gods from the Greek mythology, essentially in my world, the Greek gods escaped during the Trojan War, ended up in Taurian and continued living the way they were living before here, but kept mostly to themselves after having dealt with the entire Trojan War nonsense. And so because of that, they brought the stories of ancient Greece, and some of those managed to make their way into the human world and stay there. And that's why there are books like the Iliad and that kind of thing that have shown up in Taurian itself, because of the fact that the Greek gods, there were four sorcerer lines founded by Greek gods or people who were given gifts of power by the gods. And because of that, the entire world of Taurian is influenced by this sort of Greek mythology to it. As well, as I mentioned before, each of the kingdoms is based on a particular time period, a Star Trek race, and a city in Greek mythology. So Warren is very much based in Athens, because the way Athens is named for Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom, and so Athens was very forward-thinking. They were very advanced architecturally. They had like water ducts, or the things that ran water through the city and clean it and that kind of thing. Like they had that very far and advanced and early in that, which is what Warren is. Warren is very forward thinking. They're always trying to be more advanced. They're trying to make everybody's lives better. And so that influence from Athens has made its way into the kingdom of Warren as a whole. Dayton and the Betrugger take after the Trojans and the Spartans, where they are constantly at war with one another. They do crazy things to each other. They're violent. They have values that they have infused in their own kingdoms, but they also are willing to fight and do anything necessary in order to maintain their status quo of what they deem to be appropriate in that. And so Dayton is more war hungry, so they're more like they're the aggressor. They tend to be the ones that go after everyone, whereas the Betrugger, while they also will fight to the death in order to protect what they believe in, they don't do it for honor. They do it because of their value of family, and they're protecting the ones that they love, which is why they're the ones who are being attacked, and they're the ones responding to the attack itself, and so are defending themselves rather than outright being the ones attacking. Although there are times where they attack first simply because they want to avoid something worse happening down the road. But so the gods in the Greek mythologies that had a lot of powers, they were very, their personalities were different depending on which god specifically, but the lines have taken after the gods who were the ones that founded them by quite a bit, just because it's a lot more fun and it's easier to keep those line characteristics straight that way as well. But I've always been fascinated by Greek mythology, and so because of that, I have used a lot of the gods and the way that they behave, and that so the family relations between them exist exactly in my world as they do in Greek mythology, meaning that Poseidon and Hades are brothers and Ares is their nephew. So they have that family relationship, and while Cassandra is not a god from Olympus or anything like that, she was gifted powers by Apollo, and so she came with them into the world because she warned them what was going to happen, and they listened to her because, unlike the humans, they knew she was cursed to never be listened to, and so because she saved their lives, they brought her with them and granted her more powers, which is why she was able to start a sorcerer line that gifted her descendants with not only the power of premonition but also the power of healing, which does come from who she ended up having this line with. But so yeah, there's lots of fun things from the gods that have trickled their way into my characters, which I think is a lot of fun. I just like the way that the gods behave themselves. They think they're higher than everybody and they're almighty in that. And I've used that very much in my sorcerers because they descend from these people. So they obviously are going to have quite a bit of the attitude and the cockiness that exists in the gods from the stories that we've read in our world regarding the sorcerers and everything like that. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. Next week, we're going to be talking about the heroes and how the journeys of the heroes in Greek mythology have influenced my book as well. So yes, I hope you have a nice day. Happy Mythology Monday and happy reading.